Psalm 126 to our Emmanuel Everywhere community. If you're there, please, in a space where you can stand with us, as this is a way we'd like to show God reverence. And I'll start reading at verse 1. And it reads, "When the Lord brought back his exiles to Jerusalem, it was like a dream. We were filled with laughter, and we sang for joy. And the other nations said, 'What amazing things the Lord has done for them.' Yes, the Lord has done amazing things for us. What joy! Restore our fortunes, Lord, as streams renew the desert. Those who plant in tears will harvest with shouts of joy. They weep as they go to plant their seeds, but they sing as they return with the harvest." I'm going to read verse 1 once again, but in the CSB version. And it says, "When the Lord restored the fortunes of Zion, we were like those who dreamed." And as we prepare, you can prepare to take your seats. Help me introduce the title for today's message. Everyone say, "Can we dream together?" You may take your seats. Can we dream together? On Wednesday, August 28th, 1963, a mild summer day that was heated up by human presence, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. took the podium in front of some 250,000 people. Millions others were watching on television. Philip A. Randolph had convened the March on Washington for Jobs and Freedom. And with leaders from numerous civil rights organizations and civic organizations, there were a variety of individuals who spoke on the podium that day, John Lewis among them. But King's message has been remembered as one of the greatest orations in U.S. history. Under the shadow of Abraham Lincoln, the signer of the Emancipation Proclamation, King noted that some 100 years later, that promise has still gone unfulfilled. He said of the march that he and others had come to the nation's capital to cash a check on the promissory note made in the Constitution and the Declaration of Independence. And as King began to close what I call his sermon without a text, he inserted a refrain for which the speech is most known. "I have a dream." The first time he said it, it was actually stated, "I still have a dream." Recognizing the challenges that they faced, both he and his listeners, King understood the irony of dreaming within such a context. Yet he was courageous enough to rally the people not around what was, but what could be. He sought the ability to cast their minds beyond present circumstances to the possibilities of their future. And I know that many of us have heard the words, "I have a dream that one day," maybe it isn't today, it may not be tomorrow, but one day, a day that is still yet to come. And I believe our text for today stands in similar fashion, that it too speaks to us about dreaming, about the beauty of the dream. In fact, I think it might be a call to the dreamers, to those who can see beyond the present moment, to those who are willing to hope for better futures, to those who are not willing to allow the degradation of whatever is currently happening begin to snatch away what God can still do. I wish I had a few folk that knew that it is in moments like this that God is more than able. God is not just more than able when everything seems good. God is not just more than able when everything seems right. But God's more than able often shows up in the times where it looks like he would be unable. Because we serve the type of God that is able to do exceedingly and abundantly. I believe this text is a call to those who are willing to be courageous enough to face the extreme challenges, yet still not give way to despair. So I'll ask again, can we dream together? Or maybe a better phrasing of the question is, can we be united in dreaming? One of the things I believe is the superpower for humanity is unity. I believe it is so powerful that it is one of the main reasons why it's so hard to experience. This is one of the challenges for us and our ability to do things, because something always seems to happen when it's time for us to work together. In fact, we live in a country with the name unity in it. The United States of America. That even earlier, they recognized that we ain't as strong by ourselves. But when we come together, when we work together, when we can vision together, when we can apply together, all of a sudden, amazing things can begin to happen. There's something powerful when we think about coming together. There's something powerful when we think about unity and working together. In fact, I dare say, again, this is the human superpower. But it's also one of humanity's largest challenges. When I was a kid, I had a favorite cartoon. The cartoon was called Voltron. Now, the name of it is already telling my age, because I know there's a generation that has no idea what that is. Although Netflix did do a remake and ran it again so you could catch it. But Voltron was mine. It was similar to a couple of other shows. The Power Rangers kind of picked up a similar idea. There was a Thundercats, and they had a similar idea. But the story was about these 5 teenagers who some kind of way had been transported from Earth to take part in an intergalactic war. And the way that they would fight this war is inside of robotic lions. I thought it was amazing that they used lions. They weren't real lions, they were robotic lions. And each of these robotic lions had special abilities. Some had strength, others had lasers, some could fly. I mean, these robotic lions were amazing. They looked far more modern than we would have thought way back in the 80s, but these lions were doing things, had technology that we hadn't even fully thought of yet. And as powerful as each of them were, they were never as powerful apart as it was when they came together. When they all came together, they created a super robot by the name of Voltron. And Voltron could do what the singular cats couldn't do. Voltron could do what the individual cats by themselves trying to do couldn't do. Oh, but when they came together, the power of Voltron would be released, and the enemy and evil would be vanquished. I wish we could understand the power of unity. And what I loved about early cartoon writing and storytelling is not only was it about the cartoon, but it was also meant to leave messages and nuggets that was meant for children to grab onto. That these children were being taught, even if they didn't recognize that there's power in unity. As we come to this text, I'm blown away by this power that we see. The CSB version renders it in such a masterful way. It says, we were like those who dreamed. This text to me jumps out as they come back together and they recognize they were united in dreaming. Everybody say united in dreaming. that these individuals who had been exiled, who had to live on the outskirts of life, these individuals that didn't have everything together, stayed together by dreaming together. That the dream kept moving them forward. The dream kept their eyes above the fray. The dream was the thing that transformed them, not to just be where they were, but to be waiting and ready for where they could be. The text says that once we re-entered, we were like those who had dreamed. There's a neuroscience. I had reread a book that I had read before called Circle Maker. In Circle Maker, the author, Mark Batterson, he tells this story about neuroimaging. You can look into neuroimaging, but what it talks about is that as we age, the center of our cognitive gravity tends to shift from the imaginative right brain to the logical left brain. As this neurological tendency presents a grave spiritual danger. At some point, most of us stop living out of imagination. We start living out of memory. Instead of creating the future, we start repeating the past. Instead of living by faith, we try to live by logic. Instead of going after our dreams, we allow our dreams to die. As I thought about that, this grabbed me because I know myself to be a dreamer. Maybe too much so. I was the kid that could sit around and envision a whole world that could be different. Envision all the ways that I could be a part of helping to make that change. And then life happens. And those imaginative kids that had so many dreams bump into obstacle after obstacle, challenge after challenge, and sometimes our minds can be retrained not to dream so big, not to hope so much. And sometimes we're taught even to stay in your space, know your role, and play your position. And I think there's places for you to know your role and to play your position. But sometimes when it comes to our faith, we have to be willing for God to challenge your role, challenge your position, and call you into believing that you could be more than what you see currently. That you could be, you could live, that God may be willing to do more than what you've seen God do before. That there are other possibilities even beyond where you currently are that can lead into some brand new things. You got to be willing to dream. And what I love about this particular song is this psalm's telling us that the dream didn't just come because they wanted to dream. The dream didn't just show up because everything was perfect for dreaming. The dream came on the heels of some crying. Maybe you're missing it with me. Let's go back to the text. It says that they were filled so much with joy that they were amazed. But they're amazed because something happened. Those who planted in tears, they wept as they went along to plant the seeds. Their united dreaming came because they had united weeping. Everybody say united weeping. I think we want to be able to dream, but we don't want to have to weep. We want the dream, but we don't know that every now and then to get to the dream, we have to be willing to go through the circumstances that may cause us to cry, that may cause us to wonder if this is possible or why this is happening, that may wonder or make us wonder, is God really still at work? Because everything I'm seeing doesn't seem like it's adding up to a God that can inspire a dream. But can I tell you, we're in good biblical company. When the world gets challenging, we're in good biblical company. When you want to throw in the towel, you're in good biblical company. When you think it's too heavy, you're in good biblical company, because that's the space that God begins to do some amazing things. And might I invite us that even though I want to make sure that we dream together, I know there'll be some times that we weep together. Every single time I turn on the news, I'm blown away by the things that we have to endure, by the possibilities of what is said to come from an administration that's supposed to be leading a united country, but that's going through and leading as if nobody ever really matters. I hear the concerns on federal employees, and I'm weeping with you. I hear the concerns about parents with children wondering how their education would look, and I'm weeping with you. I'm weeping with those that don't know how Social Security and everything will work out as you're getting closer to retirement. I'm weeping with you. And I think there's a power when we are willing to weep together. That just as much as we ought to be able to come to church and worship together, just as much as we are able to come to church and pray together, just as much as we can come to church and lift our hands together, there are times where we can come to church and allow the tears to fall from our eyes, and we weep together because we are in this together, and there's power even in the united weeping of our lives. We weep together, seeing what's going on. We weep together, wondering what we can do to make change. We weep together, wondering how this will be for generations to come. We weep together knowing that God is not pleased with so many things. And although we can't change it all, God knows we can start right here. We can weep so we can be transformed into what God wants us to be. And the way the Psalm seems to write it, of course, in this amazing figurative language, it sets it up that the weeping, that the tears themselves are the prayers that are being planted. And sometimes you don't pray the same way when tears aren't filling your eyes. Sometimes your knees are not bruised enough when life is too easy. Sometimes the gift of the difficult challenges is it forces you to go back to the one that can deal with all challenges. Sometimes the tears remind you that this is the prayer that we lay before God. And as the tears will fall, this becomes the seed of the harvest that we'll bring back. He says, they that wept, they that sowed and planted the tears, they'll be the ones that return singing with the harvest. That we're united in dreaming, united in weeping, and united in singing. One of the things I loved about the civil rights movement, and I recognized how powerful it was, is that it almost seemed as if it had a soundtrack. Marches were infused with music. Meetings were infused with music. In fact, if you think about our worship is infused with music because music has a way of grabbing us, moving us, allowing us to elevate ourselves even more. And the singing in this space is a counterbalance to the weeping. That yes, you may weep, but singing is on the way. Yes, it may be difficult, but joy is on the way. And our ability to hold on to the fact that joy is coming, our ability to remember that joy is still out there, our ability to remember that the weeping won't endure always, that trouble don't last always, that God is still able, is the very thing that allows us to sing. And I pray that we can take our faith up a little bit more. See, the Bible said that they waited till things changed, then they started singing. But I think that there's something that could happen if we will be able to sing in the middle of weeping. Tears may still be on my eyes, but God, you are good and your mercies endure forever. God, you are able to do exceedingly and abundantly. God, I believe that you will be here in the land of the living. God, I will rest on you all the days of my life. God, I'll hold you and I'll sing it. I'll sing that you are the God of change. I'll sing that you are the God of possibility. I'll sing that you are the God that can make it better. I'll sing by and by because I know that my change is coming. I pray as we enter into this day of intentional time of unitedness, that we'll hold to all of these things. And one of the things this makes me think about is in 1962, Terrell County, Georgia, Dr. Martin Luther King attended a mass meeting full of African Americans decrying current life situations. Seemed so far removed from us, worrying about voter rights. Seemed so far removed from us, worrying about proper employment. Seemed so far removed from us, worrying about if the government would do well on its promises to its people. I know that we don't live in that now. I know that's not our current reality. I know we're not worried about if we'll be able to talk about our own history and have it included in the annals of history because they don't want to talk about it. I know we're not dealing with that now, but back then, 1962, King's at this meeting. He goes in, and as they're talking, listening, there's a woman preacher that shows up on the scene. Now, she was a woman preacher before women preachers were in vogue. It's still hard today to be one. It was amazingly hard then to be one. This preacher, listening to all of the challenges, all of the concerns, begins to call out to God. She began to pray. And her prayer wasn't just, God, these are the problems. Her prayer began to be what I believe God can do to solve them. And again in her prayer, she made the refrain, I have a dream. The Reverend Dr. Prathia Hall began praying, I have a dream about what this country could be. I have a dream about what God will do through our efforts. I have a dream about what all could transpire if we got together and united. I got a dream. And King, sitting at this meeting, hears Prathia's prayer. And Prathia's prayer moves King so much that a year later, King has a speech to which he takes a similar refrain. Prathia's prayer turns into King's speech. And King's speech turns into the ideas and the hopes for a country. Prathia prayed it. King spoke it so that we could live it. And I wish we understood the power of praying together. I wish we understood the power of speaking it out loud and hoping together. I wish we understood the power of dreaming together, weeping together, that we might sing together, because our God is able to do amazing things with our efforts. Prathia prayed it, King spoke it, and it's still up to us to live it. Now, I believe that we've already begun to live some portions. The very fact that we have a church, that we can own land, we're living into some of it. But there's so much more to do. So much more to be lived into. So much more I believe God is calling us to live into.